Can you masturbate too much? Yes, absolutely. And the effects on your brain might be more serious than you think. If you've ever told yourself it's just a harmless habit, you might want to think again because neuroscience is telling a very different story. But here's where it gets confusing. The same act under different conditions can also bring real health benefits physically and even sexually. So, what's the line when does something healthy turn into something harmful? That's exactly what we're breaking down in this video. If this topic already has your curiosity going, just drop a 1 in the comments. No need to explain anything. You're not alone here. And trust me, you're in good company. And if you'd like to see more real no BS conversations like this one, go ahead and hit that like button and make sure to subscribe. We're building. So let's break it down. What's really happening inside your brain every time you masturbate? Why is it that something so natural can become something that quietly rewires how you think, feel, and behave without you even realizing it? It starts with dopamine. Every time you engage in sexual stimulation, your brain releases a surge of dopamine, the same neurochemical that spikes when someone uses cocaine. Now, this isn't just a feel good hormone. Dopamine is a learning molecule. It tells your brain that felt good. Let's do it again. So, what does your brain do? It remembers. It builds a shortcut. The more you repeat the habit, the more sensitive your brain becomes to any sexual cues, images, thoughts, memories. A neural loop forms. See, stimulation, get reward, repeat. And the more this happens, the more you need intense or novel stimuli to get the same rush. You're no longer chasing pleasure, you're chasing relief. But here's where it gets deeper. This dopamine loop doesn't just affect pleasure, it starts to suppress another key part of your brain, the frontal lobe. This is the region responsible for focused decision making, self control, emotional regulation. And when it weakens, like it does, under constant dopamine bombardment, what do you notice? You start losing control. You make excuses to watch just one more video, scroll just one more time. Your motivation drops, your mood shifts, social anxiety creeps in. You feel emotionally flat or irritable over small things. You're distracted, foggy, and maybe worst of all, you feel like you've become someone you don't quite recognize anymore. Back in 2014, researchers at Cambridge University conducted a brain scan study on people who regularly consume pornography. What they found was shocking. Their brains lit up in the same way as those addicted to drugs. Not similar, identical. That's the level of impact we're talking about here. So let's pause for a second, because this isn't about judging or labeling anyone. This is about understanding what's actually happening under the surface so you can take back control. Let's look at the difference between healthy sexual expression and neurological dependency. In a healthy relationship with sexuality, the urge comes from natural desire, it's flexible, and it doesn't interfere with your daily life. But when that urge is driven by anxiety, loneliness, boredom, or when it feels impossible to stop even when you want to, that's no longer healthy. That's your brain reaching for dopamine as a way to soothe itself. That's not intimacy, that's neural escape. And this escape creates a vicious loop. You feel stress or emotional discomfort. You turn to masturbation as a quick fix. Dopamine spikes, you feel better for a moment. But then it fades and you feel emptier. So your brain looks for the next hit. And again and again. It's not about sex anymore. It's about survival, or what your brain thinks is survival. The truth is, you're not addicted to sex. You're addicted to the relief. So now ask yourself honestly, is this habit still something you choose? Or has your brain been conditioned to chase a reward you no longer control? Because if the answer unsettles, you don't look away. You're not broken, you're not alone, and this can change. But first, we need to go deeper. Coming up next, we'll explore how this loop affects your sexual performance, your drive, and your confidence as a man, and exactly what you can do starting today to reclaim it. Let's talk about what happens when masturbation stops being a release and starts becoming a chain you didn't know you were locked in. Because for many men, especially those in midlife who feel healthy, active, and mentally sharp, something deeply unsettling is becoming more common. They're losing their ability to get or sustain an erection. Not from aging, not from heart disease, but from something no blood test will show, from the brain. You see, when your reward system is overstimulated, when your pleasure center is constantly hit with high frequency, high intensity stimulation, like fantasy or porn, your brain begins to numb. It's called desensitization. The same touch, the same body, even the same partner no longer does it because your brain has learned to associate arousal not with real human connection, but with dopamine spikes from artificial sources. It's not your body that's broken, it's your brain that's stopped responding to reality. And that disconnect doesn't just stop at arousal. Chronic overstimulation leads to long-term stress on your nervous system. The hormone cortisol rises and testosterone, the very foundation of male vitality, starts to drop slowly, quietly. You might not feel it right away, but over time it shows up as premature ejaculation, delayed orgasm, or even the complete absence of pleasure during climax. One man I worked with, a 48-year-old divorcee, shared something that still sticks with me. He told me he masturbated almost every morning like clockwork. It felt routine, harmless. But when he reunited with his ex-wife one weekend, deeply emotional and finally ready for intimacy, he couldn't perform, not because he wasn't attracted to her, but because something in him had rewired. That moment of reconnection after years of longing was drowned out by years of autopilot relief. Now let's shift gears, because what's happening in the body is only one half of the story. The other half lives in your emotional state, in your psychology. When your brain gets used to these dopamine hits, these short bursts of artificial pleasure, it stops caring about subtlety. It loses patience for nuance. The same feedback loop that gives you relief in the moment quickly turns into an emotional drop after. And most men don't even recognize it. They don't feel sad exactly. They just stop feeling much of anything. They call it boredom, a rut, lack of motivation. But beneath it all is something deeper, a kind of mild, persistent emotional flatness that slowly replaces joy. This is where things get dangerous because real life human connection relationships, building a business, raising kids, staying healthy requires sustained effort, long term thinking. And that is exactly what compulsive dopamine training destroys. The more your brain is conditioned to quick reward, the less it tolerates challenge. It avoids complexity, it resists growth. And soon, things like planning, working out, or even holding a deep conversation feel too much. Why? Because your brain has been rewired to chase the easiest form of reward release. A 2019 study found that men who frequently consumed pornography and engaged in compulsive masturbation had significantly lower executive function. That means they struggled with decision making, impulse control, and long term planning. They didn't just lose discipline, they lost the capacity to regulate behavior. Not because they were weak, but because the brain literally had changed. And here's the kicker: most men don't even know it's happening. There's no dramatic collapse, no obvious addiction spiral, just a slow erosion of willpower day by day until one morning you wake up and realize you don't feel like you anymore. And maybe worst of all, that erosion begins to bleed into your relationships. Because when your brain is used to instant satisfaction, it starts avoiding real connection. It sees people as complicated, messy, inconvenient. Real intimacy requires patience, effort, sometimes vulnerability. But the screen, the fantasy, it's always ready, always willing, always perfect. So you retreat, not because you're selfish, but because your brain's pleasure system has stopped recognizing real people as rewarding. This shows up in marriages more than you might think. One partner starts avoiding intimacy, not because the love is gone, but because their arousal has shifted elsewhere. The spark fades, the excuses pile up, and beneath it, there's a quiet guilt that grows. I love her, but I don't feel anything when I touch her anymore. That's not a failing of love. That's a consequence of neurological reprogramming. And it goes even further. Over time, some men don't cheat in real life, but their sexual identity starts to shift. They begin craving fantasy over reality. Their expectations become distorted, their desires skewed, and eventually their entire sense of masculinity gets tangled in an artificial world that real life can no longer compete with. Because this isn't just about losing pleasure, it's about losing connection to your partner, to yourself, to your own power as a man. And even if your body still responds, even if no one around you notices a thing, something deeper begins to slip away, slowly, quietly, relentlessly. We're not just talking about lost energy or fading desire. We're talking about the invisible cost, the slow erosion of your self-respect, your decisiveness, your inner fire. Because the truth is, compulsive masturbation doesn't take everything from you all at once. It chips away at you piece by piece. First, it's your morning clarity gone, then your focus scattered. then your confidence in conversations, your ability to look someone in the eye and feel grounded. It happens so subtly you don't realize how much has changed until one day you just don't feel like you anymore. You tell yourself you're just tired, just busy, just not in the mood. But deep down, there's a quiet knowing you're not choosing this pattern anymore. It's choosing you. You want to stop or at least take control. But each time you try, the habit pulls you back, not because you're weak, but because something in you, something that used to lead, is now being led. That's the hidden cost. You begin to lose your sense of personal power. You start avoiding challenges, putting things off, doubting your ability to follow through. You look in the mirror and feel a little less proud of the man staring back. You lose that internal click that used to say, let's go. And it's not just physical, you lose emotional access too. Your capacity to feel deeply, to connect fully, to be present without needing a shortcut to feel okay. And ironically, the shame doesn't come from religion or society or some outdated moral code. It comes from you, from the part of you that knows you're meant for more, that knows this habit done mindlessly, repeatedly, compulsively isn't supporting the man you want to be. It's that moment after when the screen goes dark and the room falls silent and you ask yourself, why did I do that again? It's not guilt, it's grief. Grief for the time you could have used differently. Grief for the connection you didn't make. Grief for the version of yourself you used to feel proud of. So let's pause for a second. Breathe and ask the real question. Is masturbation the problem? No. But is the way you're using it helping you become more alive, more present, more aligned with who you want to be? Or is it slowly making you feel less motivated, less passionate, less in control, less like the man you once were? Because if you've noticed that shift, if you've felt that quiet disconnection grow, you're not crazy, you're not broken, you're not weak. You're human, and like any human under stress, under loneliness, under pressure, you found a quick way to feel better. You used it again and again, and now it's no longer helping you cope. It's slowly stopping you from growing. But that pattern can be broken, not with shame, not with judgment, with awareness, with strategy, with real grounded action that restores the balance your brain was always designed to have. Because the real question is no longer, is masturbation bad? The question is it slowly making you live less, love less, feel less like yourself? And if deep down the answer is yes, then maybe it's time to stop asking how to quit and start asking, what am I really trying to heal? So, after everything we've just uncovered, after seeing how this habit can quietly chip away at your energy, your desire, your drive, maybe you're wondering, so what now? Should I just quit for good? Here's the truth. Masturbation isn't the enemy, but it's not a magic pill either. It's not evil. And it's not essential. It's simply a biological function. The real problem isn't what you're doing. It's how, why, and how often you're doing it. Most men get trapped not by the act itself, but by the guilt, the shame, the all or nothing mindset that follows. They try to quit cold turkey. They tell themselves, I'll never do it again. And then a few days later, boom, the craving hits. The stress builds, they cave, and the shame cycle starts all over again. But here's what no one tells you. Masturbation is a natural part of male biology. Your body isn't broken. Your urge isn't wrong. Your feelings aren't dirty. What matters is whether the habit is supporting your vitality or slowly draining it. When practiced consciously, moderately, and without dependency on high-intensity stimulation like porn or extreme fantasy, it can even support your health. Yes, really. When a man ejaculates 1 to 3 times per week without compulsive triggers, without needing a digital crutch, he may actually benefit from it. Research shows this kind of healthy release can help relax the sympathetic nervous system, improve blood flow in the pelvic region, and aid the prostate in clearing waste products that, if left stagnant, might contribute to inflammation or dysfunction. This isn't about boosting testosterone or unlocking secret powers. It's simply biology functioning as intended when kept in balance. But here's where a lot of men go wrong. They hear that ejaculation reduces prostate cancer risk, and suddenly they're using it to justify daily sessions with porn. Let's clarify. The Harvard study often quoted in this context, it found a correlation, not causation, between regular ejaculation and slightly lower prostate cancer risk. And that benefit was seen in men with active, healthy sex lives, not in men compulsively self-stimulating in isolation. More importantly, studies from the UK and Australia have shown that compulsive masturbation, especially when linked to porn, can lead to pelvic inflammation, erectile dysfunction, and even chronic fatigue. So, if you're using that prostate excuse to justify a habit that's clearly costing you energy, confidence, and connection, then let's call it what it is, a clever trap. Now, does that mean masturbation has no place in a healthy life? Not at all. But it has to be done differently. Healthy masturbation doesn't look like a reactive escape every time you're bored, stressed, or lonely. It's not a click fest through increasingly extreme videos. It's not an emotional crutch you lean on to avoid real intimacy or real feelings. It's a conscious act done with presence and intention, not as a way to numb, but as a way to stay in tune with your body. You finish and you feel light, not hollow, clear, not ashamed, calm, not detached. When that's the case, when the act fits naturally into your physiology instead of hijacking your psychology, it can serve you. It can help you move through tension, stay emotionally stable, and even maintain a balanced sexual system, especially as you age. But if you've noticed it leaving you feeling empty, edgy, or exhausted, then maybe it's not the act that's the problem, it's the autopilot behind it. So now the question becomes, what does healthy solo sex actually look like? How do you know? How much is too much? How do you tell the difference between a helpful release and a pattern that's rewiring your brain? That's exactly what we're covering next. Stick with me, because this is where things start to shift. By now, you've heard the science. You've seen how the brain adapts to short term reward, how your hormones can shift, and how even something that feels normal, like masturbation, can reshape your behavior when done on autopilot. But none of that matters unless you're honest with yourself right now in this moment. No one's watching you, no one's judging you. This isn't about shame, it's about awareness. So take a breath and quietly answer these 5 questions to yourself. No performance, no excuses, just the truth. Do you often find yourself masturbating, not out of desire, but because you're bored, lonely, stressed, or emotionally numb? Do you feel agitated, restless, or like something's missing if you don't do it for a few days? Have you ever struggled to get or maintain an erection during real sex, even though you can masturbate just fine? Have you ever felt disappointed, depleted, or even ashamed afterward? Even though you thought it would help you relax, have you tried to stop for a week, but ended up returning to it, not because of physical need, but because you couldn't handle the emptiness? If any of those hit you in the gut, that's not coincidence. Each of these reflects a deeper layer, from emotional triggers to early signs of dependence to nervous system dysregulation to the quiet erosion of inner confidence. One yes is a yellow flag. Two or more, you're not just in a habit. You may be caught in a loop you no longer fully control. Now, here's how to make sense of what that means. If you didn't answer yes to any of those, congratulations, you're likely in full control. Your behavior is aligned with your natural rhythms and needs. If you had one or two yes responses, you're on the edge. You might not be addicted, but your emotional state is starting to influence your physical behavior. This is your window to adjust before the habit adjusts you. If you had three or more, there's a good chance your nervous system has taken the wheel. You're not just responding to stress anymore. You're being run by the reward loop. And you'll need a clear plan to shift out of it, not by force, but with intention and structure. And let's get one thing very clear. This doesn't mean you're broken. You're not weak. You're not perverted. You're not less of a man. You're just human. A man with a sensitive brain and a nervous system that's been shaped by repetition, emotion, and escape. And you're not alone. Thousands, if not millions, of men between 35 and 65 are dealing with this exact feeling. That quiet sense of drifting, of losing touch with your edge, your spark, your center. But while you're not the only one facing it, you can be the one who faces it head on. You don't have to fix everything overnight. You don't need a grand transformation today, but one decision right now can be the step that changes the direction of your next 10 years. So if you saw yourself in those questions, if your gut said, yeah, that's me, then it's time for a shift. In the next section, we're not going to talk theory anymore. We're going into practical steps. What a healthy, brain safe, body supportive masturbation habit actually looks like. How often is too often? How do you know when you're back in control? And how do you rebuild the trust between your body, your mind, and your masculinity? Let's find out together. Here's the good news. You don't have to quit. You don't need to shut down your desires or fight your biology because masturbation isn't inherently bad, just like food, exercise, or technology. It's not the act itself that's harmful, but why, and how often you engage in it. If it's a conscious tool for physical release, for reconnecting with your body, it can serve you. But if it's become a reflex, a crutch to numb pain, avoid emotions, or replace real intimacy, it's no longer working for you. It's working against you. The difference lies in execution. And in this part, I'll walk you through the key principles that bring masturbation back into the zone of physical safety and emotional health. Let's begin with frequency. There's no perfect number for everyone, but sexual health specialists generally agree on this for men between 30 and 50 who aren't sexually active with a partner. 1 to 2 times per week is a healthy range. If you're over 50 once a week or even less, depending on your natural libido, might be more appropriate. And if you find yourself needing to do it every day or multiple times per day, consider that a signal, not a need. Or here's a quick test. Take a 7-day break. If you feel mentally agitated, physically restless, or preoccupied with the urge that's not your body speaking, that's your nervous system caught in a loop. Next, let's talk about how you do it. Masturbation is only healthy if it reconnects your brain with your body, not with some external hyperstimulated fantasy. If you're watching intense porn or mentally escaping into exaggerated scenarios, your brain is responding to the image, not your own sensations. That distorts your pleasure baseline. Ask yourself, can I feel my own body, or am I just reacting to something outside of me? If you can climax without even sensing your physical self, you're not chasing pleasure. You're reinforcing a loop. Another red flag, using masturbation to avoid pain. If you find yourself doing it every time you're anxious, lonely, or emotionally drained, that's not sexual expression. It's emotional suppression. You're not resolving what you feel. You're distracting yourself from it. The result, a brief moment of relief followed by guilt, emptiness, and fatigue. Before you reach for that escape, pause and ask, am I doing this because I'm turned on or because I'm trying not to feel something else? Timing matters too. Avoid masturbating right before bed or immediately after waking up. These are the moments when your brain is most impressionable. If you repeatedly pair masturbation with these windows, your brain starts linking the behavior with comfort, sedation, or reward, disturbing your natural sleep rhythms and hormone balance. Instead, choose a time when you're awake, alert, and emotionally neutral. Masturbation should be a decision, not a lullaby or morning habit. And finally, the most important measure of all is how you feel afterward. If you feel calm, at peace, and physically relaxed, that's a sign your nervous system handled the act well. But if you feel drained, disappointed, ashamed, or disconnected, your body's trying to tell you something. Healthy sexual expression leaves you more centered, not more scattered. So, no, you don't have to kill your desire. You don't need to silence your sexual energy, but you do need to guide it. Because sexuality isn't just about release, it's about power. It's the engine that fuels your creativity, confidence, and connection when handled with care. But mishandled, it becomes a leak that slowly drains all three. The good news is it only takes small adjustments, how often, how consciously, how emotionally clear, to shift everything. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to start leading instead of following. If you've stayed with me this far, you've already done something powerful. You faced the truth. That takes strength. You're not broken, you're not weak. You've just been stuck in a pattern that no longer serves you, but now you see it. And that changes everything. You don't need to quit. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to take back the driver's seat, one choice at a time. If any part of this hit home, drop a 1 in the comments. No pressure, no shame. Just a quiet signal that you're ready for more. And if you found this helpful, like the video, subscribe and share it with a man who might need to hear this today. We rise together. Let's keep going.